few people ask, a couple out-of-towners that want to know about leash walking. So first of all, I want to say that dogs pull on a leash because they get to go where they want to go, meaning you allow them to pull, you follow them, or your hand follows them. So what you want to do is make sure that you teach your dog what a word means. We use the word here, meaning I want you at my side. And I don't care what side you pick. I have some dogs that are on the right, some on the left. If they're off leash and I say here and pat my legs, I don't care what side they go to, as long as they're following me and not passing me up. So there is a natural dog game called Follow the Leader. And I saw a classic Follow the Leader game with my male Doberman. He's 9 years old, and then my puppy, who's at the time was probably 5 months old. He's now 7 months old. And I didn't have a camera to capture it. It was perfect. We have a long driveway, probably, they went probably 1/8 of a mile, maybe not that much. But Micah was trotting down the driveway, because dogs like to trot when they travel. So the male Doberman was trotting down the driveway and the puppy was following. And they're trotting. And then the Dobe puts his nose to the ground, which is my look what I found game. And the puppy followed suit. They checked out something on the ground. The Dobe put his head up, started trotting again. The puppy didn't stay there. He followed the leader and he trotted again. And they did that at least 3, if not 4 times before I called them back to me. And they stopped at various places, checked things out, and then they trotted along. And that's what I want for you. I want you to learn to where your dog is following you, coming along with you really nicely. But then if you decide to stop and let them go to see something and you check it out together and be in it together with them, and then you travel on. That's how dogs travel. That's what they like to do. That would be a nice walk. And you're both in tune with each other and enjoying each other's company. Dogs like to trot when they travel. They really only run when they're excited or if they're on the chase. And so their traveling gait is trotting. Of course, I don't like to trot. Most of you probably don't like to trot. If you are a jogger, you get a better walk sooner because the dog gets to trot along with you. If you have a small dog and you walk at a good pace, your dog gets to trot along with you. But the longer leg dogs, it can be a little more difficult to get them to learn that their leader walks and they need to walk along with us. So I'm going to show you a few things. There's going to be a few parts to this. I'm going to use different dogs. But today I want to show you the equipment that we use, which is varied. I do not just stick with one thing. I also want to show you how I use it on a couple of my dogs. I'm also going to show you the end result of your dogs walking with you off lead, because they understand when you say here to walk with you. I also want to show you the progression with a client's dog, or maybe a few clients' dogs over the next few weeks. You got to bear with me. I'm still suffering from the knee injury. I'm going to be starting physical therapy. So hopefully we'll be able to get through this and give you the information that you need. Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is all the equipment that I use, and nothing is all inclusive. I want to make sure that it's the right equipment for the right dog and for the family, okay, for their comfort. So this is what I give to every client that walks in my door. It is called a martingale collar. The reason I like the chain, because they do come in the nylon as well, is they release very quickly. And in animal training, the secret is in the release. Okay, so this is the martingale. It's a safety collar. It's fitted to the dog so that you can get like at least a finger or 2 in. It's safe because they can't slip out of it. It'll snug up. So if they would want to pull back and you have a flight risk, this is a great collar for that. That's what we start with. If somebody has a well-fitting nylon collar, that's good enough as well. Nothing special about this besides being safe. Okay, it's not a choker. And if you notice, I don't have any choker chains here. Not that they were horrible if they were used properly. Most people don't use them properly. They choke their dogs, and that's not what it was meant to do. All right. This here is a nice little quick collar. I like to use this on my longer haired dogs, and it just snaps together. You got to make sure they're fitted well. And honestly, mine are big. I will show you that on my German Shepherd. They can slip off because my dogs are not a flight risk. So if their collar is gone, they still listen. Then we have these Star Mark collars. These are plastic prong. That would be the next up in neck collar that I would use. I'm going to actually open this one here and show you it. And this is not quite as bitey, or it doesn't get their attention as well as a metal prong collar. But what I like about this, what I really like about this is when you get it fitted, you just snap it on like this. I wish they would come up with a Hermspringer like that. Hermspringer is the metal. But this is so easy to use, like for an older person who needs a little advantage or somebody that just can't manage the metal prong. These are great. Now, you do have to pop these off, kind of like those old links. They're not as easy to pop off as you would like, but once you have it fitted well, it is a good, see how hard that can be. It's a good addition or a little step up from a regular collar or flat buckle collar. Let's see, and this is a safety collar that comes with that this here, you put it around the dog's neck, then you hook up both to your leash like that, and it's a safety collar. In case this would come apart, you still have your dog. So that's what this is used for when it comes in with the Star Mark. I am not sponsored by anyone. This is just what I prefer to use, and you can see it's varied. This is the metal prong, Hermspringer, the only brand I would put on a dog, and I like the medium link if I'm going to use it. I don't typically have to use them for small dogs, so I don't need to use the smaller links, obviously, but these are a little more difficult to put on and a little tricky for people. So they make a really nice, if you need it. Now these training collars, I don't want you to use forever. I want you to go to a regular collar. I prefer neck collars, and that's why I'm showing those first. Then we have harnesses. Something I don't use very often, except for small dogs that have trachea issues. If they have they might get a collapsed trachea. These are nice. This is called an Easy Walk harness, and the snap goes in the front, and it can correct your dog by taking them a little off balance, and it makes them a little lighter, and you don't want them to pull on this harness. If I put a harness on my horse, or if you put a harness on a sled dog, you want them to pull. So you don't want to use a nice soft padded harness. I don't like those because the padding will encourage pulling, and that's not what you want. You want the dog attentive to you. This is kind of a little bit more of the traditional type harness. This is what the nylon material or a thinner material, this is what I would want a small dog to have on. But obviously, when I say small dog, I'm talking 15 pounds or under, and a dog with a trachea issue. You don't want to on their neck, okay? And then this is something I use occasionally, depending on the person. I have seen these rub on the top of the nose, and if the dog is not controlled by it, eventually, over some use, it can actually rub part of the top of the nose off, and I don't like that if that's going to happen. There have been dogs in the past where we've tried different things. This was perfect. The person really didn't want to do a whole lot of training, or they didn't have time. This was something they put on real quick, and the dog liked it. If the dog fights it, it's a negative. It's not something we're going to use. But if a dog adjusts to it in a short amount of time, I'm talking 1 or 2 sessions, that's what you're going to use, okay? And again, I want the harnesses and the head collars it takes you longer to get them off of it because they know when they're on, they know when they're off. Any of the neck collars, you can get your off lead quicker, you can get your training quicker and have a trained dog. These are more control, and I want to train a dog, but sometimes I do use those. A collar I don't have out here would be the electronic. I can only think of 3 times in my training career that I used an electronic to help somebody with their walking issue. That is not something I use very often, so I don't even have one out here. Again, I wouldn't want anyone to just go and get one. I think that needs to be fitted, it needs to be tried with a trainer. And I'm not talking the e-collar trainers. They use them for everything. I'm talking, very sparse use if needed at all. Dogtra 280C is a decent model and sport dog. But again, I just wanted to brief over that. That's not something I would jump to at all. Okay, and then the leashes, all right? For your hands, you would use leather, the old-fashioned leather, 6 foot, 5/8 inch, or this is biothane, okay? Biothane leashes have a nylon core, but a rubber type coating that is just nice and grippy. These are so nice for your hands. You don't have to break them in like leather. Lots of different ones on Amazon. J&J Dog Supply is where I got that. Dog.com has some nice leather ones. The Latigo twisted leather. That's what I would recommend. I wouldn't, unless it's a small dog, I wouldn't go lower than 5/8 inch, okay? Then we have our long lines. Oh, and you can also get a 6 foot leash like this and I don't know if you can tell, this is not nylon, this is cotton webbing. And this is what I use for my long lines and sometimes for handling for a small dog. Okay, so these 20-foot leashes, all right, this one here is made out of a plastic
hollow braid.
Hollow braid. My husband makes these. These are given to my small dog people, anyone that's got a small dog, 20 feet long, great for recall, has a little handle on it just like any other leash, okay? And I might use those on puppies as well. If they're not, once your dog gets large, these can kind of hurt your hands if they pull. But if you train your pup not to pull, you can even use that on a large breed puppy. But I wouldn't start out with a dog, large breed dog. But these make great training tools. So I think that pretty much covers what I use. And I'm going to show you some on my dogs. Okay, dog's out with me. Micah, come. So Micah's a Doberman. He's the oldest. He's my 9-year-old. And the thing about Micah is, or any Doberman, they can have a cervical neck injury. They call it wobblers, but they can have problems with their cervical neck. So harnesses are great, and I can show you a way of making a harness with your regular collar and your leash. You wrap it underneath, then go up. So if I walk Micah out in public, this is what I do, okay? And it's just safe. It doesn't stress their neck as much. It's a free, no pull harness. This was taught to me by an older gentleman that used to have horses, and he trained Labradors. So, and in the hunting world, they put it back here, but I don't want it back here, it's just here. And sometimes I call it the wrap, and I will wrap the leash to give somebody an extra advantage if their dog is really pulling on the neck collar. So for Tess, I use that same collar that I showed you that was red. Come. So I don't worry about my dogs running away. When they're well trained, then they can have a collar like this and it can slip on and off. Okay, cut it. Test it. Good, and I can put her collar right back on by hooking up. Their tags are on, and I just like these because they don't mat down the hair. Okay, now when Tess first came, she had been chained out to a dog house, and she was 10 months old, and she not only did she act really aggressive, which I knew she wasn't, but she also was a really strong puller from all those months of pulling on the short chain that was attached to the doghouse. So I did use a prong for about 2 weeks. I don't use them very long, and that's how I put it on. And I would handle it with kid gloves. And here, good. Good, and here, good job. And if they get, if I need to correct them, it's done. I really don't have to correct her. She doesn't go far now. But if I have to correct them, it's done very sharp and quick. I'm not gonna do that because she's a good girl and doesn't need that anymore. But again, that was only 2 weeks. I've had her for 3 years now, and she doesn't pull on a leash. And with Junie, she's never had anything more than a regular snap together collar. Again, it's fitted for me. You wouldn't do this if your dog isn't trained, but it's fitted so if they ever got caught up on something, they can get out. I don't, Junie, go. Hey, girls, come here, good. And I can just snap it right back on. That's all she ever needed. She was easy to work with. Even though she's 90 pounds, I just don't ever let them pull. And she's a great dog. So, okay, so this is what you'd want to have when you walk a dog. Arm swinging, good length of lead. The dog stays with you. Here, chickens are over there. She looks. I say here, she pays attention. Okay? You want to be able to just enjoy swinging your arms and walking. You know, if you're in a crowd, you can shorten the leash up and not tighten it up. Just shorten it up. And we'll talk about crowd length lead. Here. Here. Good here. Good here. Good here, Junie. And if I turn and say, Junie, here, she'll come along with. Good. Good job. And then we can enjoy our walk and look around together. The dog doesn't have to look at me, but they gotta walk with me. Junie, here.